And we are streaming now. So let's give it a second till the time it's setting up the YouTube live. And here we go. Okay. So we are live. Hello, everyone who is watching us right now. This is Astha and welcome to Cyber Preserve. And before we start today's session, I want to wish everyone out there, especially women, a very happy Women's History Month. We just had Women's Day passing by. So belated happy Women's Day. And today, on the occasion of Women's History Month, we have a wonderful and fantastic speaker with us today. She's a cybersecurity leader. She has a diversified journey into cybersecurity, and we would love to talk about it, like how she made it into the journey. She's none other than Meghan Jacquot. You have seen her on LinkedIn. Many of you have worked with Meghan, met her, and whatnot. But today we are going to discuss Meghan beyond what you already know. So Meghan, welcome to the channel. Thank you for joining us today. And we are so glad and happy to have you today with us. Our audience would love to know about you, like a little bit about you, what you do. And from there, we'll just go on.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Asa. It's a true pleasure to be here with you in Cyber Preserve today, especially in the month of March, Women's History Month, close proximity to Women's Day, truly a special time. So I do appreciate being on here with you. Just to share a bit about myself, I did do a career pivot into cybersecurity. Prior to being in this field, I was a STEM educator. So I was teaching 17 and 18-year-olds in the United States. We would also say 11th and 12th graders. I was teaching them all sorts of sciences, engineering, computer science, and very many different topics. I had been doing that for about a decade and had always been drawn and loved technology. It was something I grew up with. I like to tinker and build, and I incorporated that into my teaching. And so I decided about 4 or 5 years ago, I think I want to dive deeper into technology and started thinking about, well, how would I exactly do this? And that's really what started my journey, which I'll get into a little bit more. But what I'll say first right now is that what I do currently, I am a cyber threat intelligence analyst at Recorded Future. And I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit later as well, too. But I think one of the big things to think about if you are trying to decide, do I want to get into cybersecurity or do I want to shift into a different domain of cyber? Some of the things that you might want to consider are what are some of the things that you really enjoy and what really drives that passion for you as an individual. And so when you're thinking about the things you enjoy, you might be thinking about, what are my interests? When I investigate certain topics, what really drives your passion? And then what are some certain things that you maybe find less interesting, and try to get into the why. And it's really one of those factors of exposure, right? The more things you test out and try out, the more things you'll know that you like or don't like. And that's really what I tried to do a lot of when I was doing a lot of exploration, because I knew I liked technology, but technology is huge. Yeah. So if you know you like technology, how do you figure out within technology what you want to do? I feel like I had a lot of certain pivot points in my life where I could kind of decide I might want to do this or do that. And I will kind of like touch on something for a moment. This is a story I don't think I've really shared, but several years ago now, my father passed away. And so you might hear me say phrases like carpe diem. And some people might see, if they're like connected with me on LinkedIn or Twitter, wow, it seems like Meghan does a lot. One of the things that I actually very consciously try to do is be aware of the time that we have here on Earth. Because if you look at me, you might see, wow, Meghan's not that old. And I'm not. My dad passed away when he was not that old. And it was sudden. I did not expect him to pass away. This is pre-pandemic. And so he was in technology. He was a database analyst, and very much so young, when I was young growing up, he had instilled in me that love of technology and curiosity. And he actually gave me the nickname Curious George. And so I really carried that torch forward. And when I was thinking about what I wanted to do for a career pivot, I thought about, well, I love technology. I also really want to make the most of my time here. And so that was something that I kept with me. And so if like I said, if you're connected with me on these different platforms and you see, hey, Meghan seems like she's doing a lot, it also might be that I'm looking at like where I have time and thinking about how I can spend my time and be making impact. And so that is something that I'm very cognizant of, that we do only have a certain amount of time here.
That's very touching, Meghan, to be honest. Many times we have experiences in our life, especially not just personal, but as you shared your experience about your dear father into technology and how he inculcated the technology and curiosity in you, and as you grew up and became an educator. So many of you might not know, Meghan has been an educator, as she shared in the last few minutes, that she has been teaching. So she was in education, but she was always into computer science, IT, and even while teaching students. And I think our passion comes from several ways, and coming from different directions. Sometimes we have our passion coming up from our own personal interests. Sometimes it comes from people whom we really admire. And I think parents are really the ones who admire us the most. Like things like hardworking, like how much hard work do you put, persistence, perseverance, all these traits are something we learn as we grew up in our like during those times, during your childhood. You really learn a lot about all those things, and I'm so glad that your dad gave you that inspiration, and all the time that you have spent with him, you have absorbed it and made a passion and making such a huge impact. And that is also true, because as you shared that people see you on LinkedIn, Twitter, and on social media doing a lot of things, and it's largely about making an impact, like how much time we have every day and how well we are utilizing that time and making a big impact. Because you never know, we have to make up for this time that we have on this earth, because it's entirely like you don't know where you were when you were born, and you don't know where you go after this life. All we have is this life with us. And as you shared this beautiful journey with us today, I have students, like I have been teaching for quite a while now. And as I had many students coming into and getting to learn cybersecurity, many times I used to ask them questions like, what brings you here into this field? And the second question was, they were always overwhelmed. So the very first or the second day I used to meet them, usually after a week, they used to be very, very overwhelmed. And why? Because they had so many courses to learn. And the second thing was, why are you here? Because we all of us know that cybersecurity is so important, not just like as like in terms of IT, but everywhere. And we have seen that. So what is that one experience that you would share with students or with someone who are making that slow and steady transition, that they do not feel overwhelmed? As you said, you tested, you tried, you identified what you are liking, your curiosity, your motivation, and your passion. So what do you like to share with students when they feel overwhelmed, as much as they want to become part of the field, but at the same time they're overwhelmed, and that further leads to imposter syndrome, and then they start to go in that loop of losing their self-esteem and confidence, and then they think like, am I here for the right? Am I going to make it or not? And many times they just want to give up. So would you like to share some stories of your own journey where you might have, I'm 100% sure everybody has gone into that challenge.
Absolutely. I mean, imposter syndrome is very real. And I think, most people experience it at some point in their careers, many times, multiple times. And oftentimes the more you know, the more you realize you don't know, right? The more you become an expert in something, the more you realize, oh my gosh, there's such a gulf of knowledge. And that can lead to feeling like an imposter too. So I think awareness and recognition of that can actually be really helpful, that people who are experts feel this as well. So it's not that you who are new are the only person feeling this. So talking about it can be really helpful. Joining a community like Asa and I are both part of Breaking Barriers Women in Cybersecurity, and joining those types of communities where we discuss these things, that can be really helpful, as well as trying to think through only doing one thing at a time. We can't learn 50 things all at once. And if you're trying to do that, you're not going to be successful. You're not going to retain it. So pick a thing and focus on and learn that, as opposed to, I'm going to learn how to become a pen tester, and I'm going to learn how to malware reverse engineer, and I'm going to learn how to do network administration and segmentation, and I'm going to learn how to be a blue teamer, and I'm going to learn GRC. No, you can't learn all of that all at once. So pick a thing, start learning that, whatever it is. And just focus in on that, as opposed to trying to learn all of the things. Like I like the meme, all the things, right? But we can't always do all the things all at once. Sometimes you just have to pick a thing and focus in on it.
Definitely. I really like the point of talking out, because many times I've felt like in my early days as well, when you used to speak it out with someone, you will realize like, oh, everybody's feeling the same. I was just talking to myself. It was so wonderful if I could have discussed this before. And many times this happened. People spend months and week in that introspection. And I think sometimes better than introspection, it's good to discuss with people how they have been feeling. In fact, I also agree with the fact, like, even experts, they feel the imposter syndrome many times till today, because it's an ever changing field, we know, and we have continuous learning. And as you said, I want to learn pen testing, I want to learn cloud, I want to learn blue teams. It's not going to happen everything at the same time. Maybe for an year you're learning one thing, then another year you might be learning another thing. But at one given moment of time, learning too many things is going to make you confused. And I know when we are in school or college, I know you went back to university as well to learn cybersecurity. At that point, we have different courses and we learn about those different courses. But at the same time, I think one important question which comes to everyone's mind is all this cybersecurity. This is also one of the question which comes from students and many people who are new, that, oh my god, I'm learning this, I'm learning that throughout my school or a university program or a boot camp, that I'm learning so many courses. Will my job like will be equal to all these courses? And the answer is no. And Meghan, you started off with threat intelligence, and I think before threat intelligence, you have worked in risk assessment as
Mhm.
well. So, can you share your experience of how you started off with one area and how you identified threat intelligence as your passion, and then moved into that area and got a job, and now you're working as an intelligence analyst? So, and that's wonderful. That's a great journey. Can you share that small story with us today about how you pivoted your career in the beginning?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm actually going to start kind of with some family history. So my grandfather actually was career military, and so career U.S. military, and he was a threat intelligence officer in what later became the OSS. And so I grew up knowing that threat intelligence was a thing, knowing that he couldn't really tell exactly what he worked on. And my mother was always really curious about people's stories and people's origins. And so she really wanted to interview him and see if he would tell his oral history. And so I kind of grew up with like her asking him questions and him saying, no, I can't say these things. And so that kind of piqued my curiosity of like, when you're a kid, right? And you hear like, wait, what's this classified thing? Because you don't really know, like if you're like little, like you're not familiar with any of this stuff. And so that was something that I had heard like growing up, learning all of that. And so history and the geopolitics and how all of that worked was kind of intriguing to me. And just the whole aspects of like helping other people and identifying issues that might arise. So when I was trying to think through what might be of interest for me within technology, I fairly quickly identified cybersecurity. And then when I was looking at all the different things within cyber, I was like, oh, threat and risk. And both of those kind of spoke to me because I really enjoy research and I really enjoy trying to help others be proactive in what they're doing. And so that's kind of what drove me to those pieces. And as far as becoming a threat intelligence analyst, what I was doing was I became very involved in the cybersecurity community a couple years ago. So I started becoming involved in conferences. I started becoming involved in security organizations like Women in Cybersecurity. And I joined not only the organization, but I also actively joined. So like I'll use Women in Cybersecurity and Breaking Barriers, Women in Cybersecurity as two examples. And I guess I'll use SANS as a third example. So I'll do three examples. And so with WESIS, I saw that they had a call to action to have people help them with their resources committee. And I thought, hey, I'm switching careers, but I don't really know how I could help in regards to content for cybersecurity yet, but I can help research and vet resources. As an educator, we research content all the time. We have to vet content all the time. That's definitely something I could help with. So they had like a form you filled out and you said like what your background was and how you could help. And so I filled it out and they're like, yeah, we'd love to have you help. So that was to me, with that whole imposter syndrome that we just discussed, right? Mm-hmm. On my end, I had to take a chance to even apply. I had to go against the voices in one's head that say, no, you're not really qualified. And then once I got accepted to that, I was like, oh, that's kind of exciting that they thought that I was qualified. Thought like, I'm not really sure if they'll accept me because I'm not really in the industry yet. Exactly. And so like the imposter syndrome does really creep up quite a bit for people and myself included. So yes, that was one example of how I started getting involved in WESIS, which do you want me to keep going with the WESIS example? Because I can speak to how I got more involved too.
I know. We all love WESIS.
So the other ways I got involved in WESIS was at the local level with I'm in the Mid-Atlantic region. So I got involved in the Mid-Atlantic region. And so I started helping them with social media. And then at the end of the year last year, they actually needed a new officer. And so the senior advisor said, hey, well, she was the president at the time. She said, hey, Meghan, I'm working on my PhD dissertation. Would you help us out? You've been helping out so much with social media. Would you be interested and willing to be president? And so I talked to the other people who were already officers. And I said, I just want to make sure none of you are interested in this position. I didn't want to like step on anyone's toes, Exactly. And everyone else was like, no, like we would love for you to do this. So I'm actually president of the WESIS Mid-Atlantic affiliate as well, which I love doing that work. It's really fantastic. And I really appreciate that organization and the women that I serve with as well. So that's one way that I'm very involved in the cybersecurity community. And then another way that I'm involved is with Asa. You and I are both on Breaking Barriers, Women in Cybersecurity. So I am on the advisory team. I help out with the research division. So I help out with methodology, with helping with call for papers, proposals. And Harini and I are the two advisors for that. And so we're working on kind of quarterly goals to help our members know more about research. And then upcoming, we want to work with some other institutions on maybe some research partnerships. And so that will be more of like an outward external facing. So we'll do some stuff with membership, but then also some external partnerships in regards to research. And I just conducted a research methodology too that I'm sure I'll share out with membership once that gets published in 2 weeks. And then the third thing I did that's really involved with community is with SANS. And so that was, I was a CFP reviewer for them. And then I wrote a Capture the Flag challenge, and that's actually upcoming. And that will be part of the new to Cyber summit. And so there's all these just different ways that one can get very, very involved in the community. So some of these things happened before I had my current role. Some of these things have happened since then. But all that to say is the more you're involved in the community, the more just opportunities and things that can happen. They kind of like add to each other. They're complementary. Totally. And the more you're known in the community, it can lead to other events and other opportunities as well. And that can help you network and get a job if that's your goal, or that can help you have other opportunities if you're trying to do speaking engagements or meet people or do different things. It just depends on like what your goals are. But by being involved in the community, it is helpful. Like for me, I wanted to, like I was gaining so much knowledge. I wanted to be involved and give back. And then I also found it tremendously helpful for myself. So I ended up networking with people and just telling people like, I'm switching from this current career. I would say things like, I have an upcoming career fair. Like I wouldn't say like, here's my resume, I'm looking for a job. I was very intentional about my language. Mm-hmm. So I would not make the ask like, please give me a job or something like that. Like this is when I was job seeking. I would do something like, I saw that you posted this job. Like, let's say we're in the same Slack group. Like, I would say something like, I saw that you posted this job position. If it was something that I was qualified for and interested in, could you tell me some more information about that? This is who I am. I gave this recent talk, particularly one that I gave at Day of Security. I actually had this really beautiful visual that was made. So Ashton of Mind's Eye Creative, she does these graphic recordings of visuals that are stunningly beautiful.
They're beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And so one of the talks I gave, she had done a recording of that. And so that was something that I could share out as a, hi, my name is Meghan. I am new to cyber. I'm making a career pivot. I was a STEM educator, or I'm still a STEM educator, but this is what I'm trying to do. Here's a talk I recently gave, right? So how powerful is it, right, to have this visual? Right? Because it's not just like, here's this person. It's like, here's this visual. And I would say, and I have a career fair I'm going to in a couple of weeks. So not that I was making an ask. I would say, I'm doing this, so that they knew that I was actively searching for a job.
Yes.
And so that I felt like that was really important, that I wasn't like saying like, give me. Yes. I was coming as a, here's who I am. Here's what I'm about. And I would often try to say, is there a way I can help you?
And that is extremely important. I think that's extremely important because when we talk about communities, as you were mentioning about SANS, VCIS, and BBWIC, I think it's so important for people out there who wish to be part of communities and who would like to grow and start their career. As Meghan, you beautifully shared your journey about VCs, working with Breaking Barriers Women in Cybersecurity and SANS. I think it is so important to not only become a part of community, like joining their channels, becoming a member, but it's actively important to contribute. And I think your contribution, your efforts are going to speak volumes for you, and that is going to really work. And I think that is something which I am highly impressed about you, Meghan. I'm highly impressed because I have seen you growing to exponentially in the last 2 years. But with your growth, I have seen the tremendous contributions, the ideas you have brought. And another thing that you shared was in the beginning, you are just like you're just trying to help. You don't know what you're going to help about. It's just, I'm here to help. Tell me what I can do. And I think the most important part, which I have also realized, and you also mentioned in your journey, is researching. Many times people are confused on what to do, and you will see people reaching out to you on LinkedIn or on other conference platforms, like what to do. And the most important answer in today's day and age is there is so much information that
So
people can
much.
give you ideas, like people like you, me, and many others. We can just share a chunk of information with you, not all of it. So you do have to do your homework of researching and come back to people, because there is a difference between when we are not doing any kind of homework and we are just coming and saying, I want to get into cybersecurity. I don't know what the hell this field is about. I don't know what's going on, but I want to get into cybersecurity. And the point is, looking like, I think my next segment of this conversation was building cybersecurity mindset, or what according to you is a mindset. And the journey that you literally talked about, like your father into technology, your grandfather in military, your mother playing various roles, because as I said, your growing up tells more about you and about what the personality you're going to be with, that you're going to be. And it's not just that part, it's also who you are. Like, a lot of wonderful things that you shared with us today are largely based on your strong belief systems as well. And since I have worked with you and I have interacted with you for a longer period of time, I've also seen a strong belief system where if you get an opportunity to start to work on something, you're definitely going to come up with 100% great ideas, or at least a great research where you're 100% sure that this is what I've brought and this is what internet is going to tell you, because I have researched on it. And the mindset, because not only the normal audience who is watching us right now, it's also me. Even I was thinking, like, I want to ask Meghan why she chose cyber threat intelligence. Like, we have so many domains and so many areas in cyber, why particularly? But when you shared your journey about technology, military, curiosity, questions, and it's about your brain, when you looked at it, and you'll be like, oh, I wanted to know about this forever. And why
Mhm.
do people do this? And I think a very funny thing which came to my mind was, like, we as cybersecurity professionals, I've seen this particular trait in nearly all of us. We are curious and
Yeah,
we love searching. Just tell us
we
a word
do.
and just say you don't know about it. So it's like you hear someone and you don't know what they're talking about. Immediately our hands, they go on just on searching. We want to
Yep.
search.
You want to understand.
Exactly. We want to understand. And if we heard about even someone who is an expert, like, it's just you got to know their first name, you don't know their last name, we'll keep on searching on LinkedIn. We'll keep on searching on Google or whatever search engine where
Yeah.
we can search it about. And we'll be like, no, I want to think about all possible places where this particular company or
Yeah.
idea or resource might be present. It's like that. For example,
Yep.
we start with Wikipedia some days, and then we go to multiple blogs, article, Google Scholar, and whatnot. And this is a consistent trait I have literally seen. Even either we have built it being in cybersecurity, or it was in us, because it's all about researching. And I think this researching further gives the idea of troubleshooting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's we're on a quest, right? So it's like
Exactly.
we are troubleshooting, we're researching it, we're puzzling, even like capture the flags are like that too, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, you're
It makes
puzzling
you
it
curious.
out. Yeah,
Tell
100%.
tell me one more thing. Um, since we are talking about mindset right now,
Yeah.
let's say there is a scenario or a situation or a problem which has come up, and it's not entirely about any specific thing that you know right now. It's just very generalized. There's a problem, and you and other person is solving it, and the other person immediately got the answer, and they want to tell you. So
Mm.
would you like to hear it from them, or you would be like, no, I want to find it on my own,
I would rather try to figure it out on my own
right?
first, and then if I really can't figure it out, then I would
Take a hint.
be
Chocolate.
grudgingly okay asking for a hint. Exactly, but I would really rather like to like search and figure it out, and it depends on what it is, right? Like if it's like time sensitive and a work thing and we're collaborating, like that's going to be a totally different situation. But
Yes,
if it's like some sort of like challenge or something like that, like I want to try to figure it out myself. So like
right.
it's very dependent on the situation. But yeah, if it's like some sort of puzzle, I'm like I want to rise to this challenge and figure it out for sure. So yeah.
That's interesting because as I said, this is the similar trait I have seen in most of the professionals. They don't want to know the answer.
No.
They are just like, no, let me do this. Let me dig down, and I will come back only when I have my answer with
Yeah.
me. I have my research points. I have another scenario. Have you ever been in a situation where, again, you're troubleshooting? Let's say in your day-to-day job, one fine day you are working and you're stuck, and now you have to troubleshoot.
Mhm.
And usually it does take like 2 hours, let's say 1 hour or 2 hours, but this time you're really stuck. And have you spent that time for a stretch, like sometimes 4 or 5 hours, and you're just stuck at it and forgot everything else which is going on, and you're like, no, I have to troubleshoot this. And you really enjoy, because it there are two types of situation happening. We have like 8 hours job, but sometimes our job becomes so interesting because we are stuck and we are troubleshooting, and we want to keep on working. And you'll be like, oh, okay, it's 5. Oh, I'll give it like 7 today, but I want to really do this. I'm stuck, but my mind is stuck till the time I don't solve it. Like, has this also happened with you in certain
So
scenarios?
not so much like with threat intel, like with my role, but sometimes with like the research deep dives.
Yes.
But some programming I do just as like side projects for fun. Like
Mhm.
you just get into like the code and you're like debugging it, and like I'm like trying to figure out why there's an error. And
Yes.
like some people might get really frustrated and be like, ah, but I'm like, okay, maybe it's this thing. Okay, try that. It's not that thing. Okay, maybe try this. And like I'm just having fun debugging the code. And then you lose track of time, and then you're like, oh, I need to go to bed. So I definitely have had that happen before, where you're working on something and it's a project that you've just like been transfixed by, essentially, that you've been troubleshooting, and you're like, oh, it's 2 a.m. I've been working on this for 4 hours. So I actually have I have it over there, so I can't show it to you, but it's an octagon, and it's called a timey timer, and you can flip it so that it times you, and you can set it for 5 minute intervals all the way to an hour. And so I try to set that every now and then if I'm going to go do a deeper dive into something, but I don't necessarily want to hit like a long flow, just so I remember to be like, okay, let's like get up, do some stretches, that kind of thing. And I have a sit to stand desk too. So it's kind of good to like switch into those things and be like, okay, let me like make sure that I'm like moving and doing different things like that. So striking that balance, right? So that you're not just like,
Exactly.
I'm at the computer all the time and like not moving. So yeah.
Yes,
But
it is.
it's really easy to get into those, like I'm really interested and engaged in this problem and I want to keep going with it. So yeah, I definitely know what you're talking about.
That's wonderful. So, what, according to you, what you have observed personally, or what you have observed, like as I was talking about two scenarios, like that usually happens with the person that I've seen most of the time, not 100% of the time, but most of the time I've seen people in cybersecurity, they love problems. Not
Yes.
not
Yeah.
why they are problems, because they love solving it.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's mystery.
Yeah, like the solving of the problem, any sort of like puzzles, games, that kind of thing. Like a usually a very big sense of curiosity, and like enjoying the research. I enjoy writing. I know everyone doesn't, not everyone does. But I also enjoy writing and coming up with like a clear way to express information. I really enjoy that. And I think for me too, because I was a teacher for so many years, I really enjoy coming up with ways to share out information. So, like, I do that at conferences, and I know we'll talk about this probably a little bit later, but I do that through my YouTube channel as well. It's just kind of like a great way to share out content and help continue with that teaching and helping others. So, I think there's different people who have like different ideas around that, and that may or may not be for them. But for me, that was an important thing as well. That is, I learned something, I want to share that out. So I speak fairly often at conferences or even things like this, where it's like you're sharing out information. And then I think learning new things, that's a pretty common mindset as well. So
Learning new stuff, always excited.
stuff, yeah. And of course, I mean, this one just makes sense, but loving tech. Like I love to tinker. Like you'll see like all these books over here, right? So
what are these about?
A bunch of them are actually about electronics. So like this is everyday electronics, and you can't see my table in front of me, but a bunch of it's actually electronics equipment. So I have like soldering stuff. I have like a whole bunch of different pieces that are like add-ons for Raspberry Pis and Arduinos, and being able to like put in different pieces. And I enjoy doing that type of stuff. So that's just kind of like pet projects that I work on, where I'm like, I'm going to just build something for a couple hours on like a Saturday afternoon and see if I can make a circuit out of this, and if it works, and then add some programming on the back end and have some fun with it. So like that's some stuff that I like to do. And I know a lot of people like to tinker in that way. So that's pretty common. So yeah, I'd say like those are some major ones. I think that if you're new to the field, one of the things that you could work on that I see a lot of people do, but maybe don't execute well, is they try to network, but maybe they just send like a LinkedIn request, right? But they don't actually add anything to it. So it is good to network and make those connections with people who are already in the field, but you need to then have your why. So like, why are you connecting to me or to Asta or to someone else? Okay. And if you're trying to get into the field, you know, are you then connecting with that person because you're interested in the field that they're in? Like for me, you're interested in threat intel, or you saw a talk I gave and you're like, hi, Meghan, I wanted to connect with you because I saw you gave this talk. Would you ever be okay having a 15-minute virtual coffee chat about this topic and other ones? You can make an ask of people. People will do one of three things, right? They're going to either never reply to you, they're going to not accept your connection request, or they're going to reply to you in a positive way.
Exactly.
But maybe because you went above and beyond, you didn't just click connect, you went above and beyond, and you said something very specific, like, we'll know. We'll read what you wrote. It's not generic. It's not a copy and paste. Exactly. And you took your time, and you're actually trying to like connect with this person. They might respond in a positive way. And so that can be really helpful for you if you're new to the field or trying to break in or trying to get a job. But sometimes I get these connection requests, and I'm sure you do too as well, that just say, hi, I'm trying to break into cyber, and can you be my mentor?
Yes, directly. Yes. And
I don't even know what you're interested in.
Exactly. Exactly.
Nowhere on my profile do I say that I'm open to mentor just anyone, everyone. Like I work full time, I do all these other things. And so usually my response is something like this. Welcome to the field. It's great that you're interested in this field. Here are many resources that I have in regards to cybersecurity. And then oftentimes that person never replies anything back, right? So that tells me a couple things. They probably didn't even open the thing I sent them. And they might have just been looking for me saying, yes, of course I'll mentor you. Like, so I feel like they're probably sending that to a bunch of people.
Yes.
And
Because we
so,
don't know. Because we
yeah.
don't know what's happening. And it's sometimes I would say it's incomplete kind of a connection, because all the connections that we make on LinkedIn and which are close, which are genuine, and with whom we are interacting a lot, they largely started off with something, as you mentioned. Either you shared a context of a connection on why you are connecting and what you look forward to, because that is going to be an icebreaker to
Yes.
get to know you, to get to know your aspirations. But and I think many times people feel bad that someone didn't respond, or someone didn't immediately got ready to mentor them. But the reality is, as you said, we have a full-time job. We are doing a lot of things as volunteers, and as since we are part of communities, we already are. And besides that, if we are taking out time, it might not be immediately, it might be sometime in future. We might refer you to certain opportunities which are open to mentor mentee. But for that, you have to build that context, because there, for you it's like one connection you send, but for people who are receiving your connection request, they're getting multiple invitations and they don't know who you are. So, and right now in this digital world where it's easy to be fished, and
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
scams are there, so it's important for you to bring that human context and that background. And I'm not saying about like the background about cybersecurity if you don't really know, but at least something that you aspire to. That's why you're connecting to that particular person. And if you're reaching out to 10 different people and you expect they are going to say yes, it's not going to happen, because again, they are getting multiple requests, they have their own busy schedule. But there are ways these people can help you 100% if you come up with the context, if you come up with a proper introduction. Because everybody goes through their invitations, they read. Sometimes we are not sure, probably we are not able to add you as well, because we don't know the context. And it's difficult to ask each and every person like, why do you want to connect? I'm happy to help. So
Absolutely.
I truly appreciate that, because I think many of us have the similar type of scenarios happening with us every day. And I know many of the people who try to connect with us, they feel bad, but the reality is there is so much happening. We want to help out everyone, but there are ways how we can help. So if someone is providing you resources, you have to research. Like we go back to the beginning again. You have to research. You have to research. You have to come up with something specific. You have to come up with your specific questions, and that's how people are going to help you. It's not going to be easy when you do not, like, you have not researched and you just have heard about cybersecurity, and you have heard about it like, oh, cybersecurity, cyber crimes, you have heard about it a lot, and we want to make a pivot.
Yeah.
And that's not it's about the whole journey that we have discussed today about you, Meghan. It clearly speak volumes about not just few years, but it's like a journey of your of the time that you have spent in your childhood, growing up and working in the education industry, and working, and that your curiosity and love and passion for tech, like you showed the book and what all you have shared. So each of these chunks, they combine together to build that zeal and that vision to become a cybersecurity professional. So if you are out there looking to start a career in cybersecurity, the very first thing that's going to help you is you. And
absolutely. I think that's such an important point, because, you know, you have to be the person that helps yourself. You have to be the person that is doing that research. And when you indicate to others that you are doing that work, that you are doing that research, and the way that you communicate that and the way that you show that you're part of the community, then others will be like, oh, I recognize that this person is doing the work. I can trust them. I can,
Builds the trust.
maybe exactly. I can refer them. I can, maybe see, hey, provide them with this opportunity, or like be maybe a reference for them because they're applying for a job, and I can say, oh, I know this person. Uh, they would be a good person for this role that is available. But when you don't have that context, when you don't have that, when you haven't built that, trust yet, when you haven't built that background yet, then someone's like, oh, I don't know this person. Like,
Exactly. It's not about being biased to people. It's about the connection you build, and trust is very, very important. So each and everyone out there, if you want to reach out to someone, like very first important thing, it's you who's going to help yourself first in researching, finding out ways, what's happening, and what makes you passionate about cybersecurity. And in this process, when you reach out to people for mentoring, guidance, to build network, it's very important to start with some context so that you can connect with people. As Meghan said, if someone reaches out and say, refer me for this job, can you please refer me for this job? It's important to know you before someone can share your connection with someone. Because if the third person you're sharing that information is, they're trusting you. They're trusting Meghan as a person, like she's referring someone. And when she's referring someone, we can trust them. So that trust is like a chain that we are building. And that trust is very important in building long-lasting network here in the industry, and not just cybersecurity, but any other industry that you are in. So I think that's very, very important. When people say we don't know how to communicate, if you wish to connect someone, you might have researched their profile, you might have saw their post, so you can start with knowing about them, knowing about their journey, knowing about their education, the companies that they have worked for. Anything can click with your current experience, and you can initiate those, I would say, authenticate connections with context. And I would say in those scenarios, there are 70% of the chances that you're going to get the response.
Absolutely.
Because if it's without any context, I would not say 50-50. It's like 20-80. It's like there would be very less than 20% people are going to respond. But that's really, really helpful, Meghan, because people constantly have this question around how to reach out, how to message. And that's a beautiful thing that you have brought here with all the context. Thank you so much. And before we get to the conclusion of this session today, all of us right now here, we would love to know about your channel, CarpeDiemT3ch, and what was the vision. As you said, I love to share. So what's the channel about? What's the vision? What type of resources audience can check on your channel, on the LinkedIn page as well? So would love to hear more about that.
Absolutely. So I organized it as a LinkedIn page. So it's CarpeDiem now Tech. And then on YouTube, it is CarpeDiemT3ch. And then the E is a 3. And then that's also my Twitter handle. So in the C and the D and the T are all capitalized. And I know you'll be linking all of this as well. Yes. And my whole thought for the YouTube channel was to continually share out different resources and go over information about cybersecurity scams and how to avoid them. And so that's more of a general audience, actually. And because anyone could be a victim of a scam, grandparents can, family members, loved ones, etc. So that's a very general audience. And then many of the conferences that we go to do have these really nice visuals. So I did speak with Ashton of Mind's Eye Creative and got the go ahead to take those visuals and make them into videos. So you'll see a number of those. I have a whole playlist on those. And then I have a whole nother series that is on content around different topics like cybersecurity apprenticeships or domains of cyber, or why, like what one, for example, is why you should attend conferences that are virtual live. So, for example, SANS has conferences that are summits, but they also happen live. And PancakeSCon did the same thing. And there is, you could watch all of the things after the fact, or you can attend them at the time that they're occurring if you're available to. And so I went through why you should attend them if you're available to, when they're occurring at that time. And so one of the major reasons, particularly for SANS, or even for PancakeSCon actually, is they have Slack channels that happen only at the time of the conference, and then those disappear. And so you can do a tremendous amount of networking, both with the people who are attending the conference, but also the speakers. And that can be really helpful for wherever you are in your career. So that is a really good reason. And then you can watch the video to see the other reasons I gave. But those are just some things. And I publish a new video almost every week. So that's something that you can go check out. And it really harkens back to my whole idea around, with cyber mindsets, we are always learning. And I am always learning. And I really enjoy figuring out what I do learn. So, and then I have one other track too, that the different conference talks I give, depending on which conference it is, I actually link those into that playlist. So, for example, I gave a talk at OWASP last year that was on threat modeling. So that one's in there, as well as various other ones. So I imagine that this one will also be on YouTube as a recording, so I can put that one into that playlist as well too. So you can actually connect in talks on YouTube that are not things that you self-publish. They can be things that other people publish. So that whole playlist is full of conference talks that I gave, but maybe didn't necessarily upload to YouTube because they were uploaded by the organization that did that. So
that's wonderful. Thank
you.
And
sorry. I was gonna say I'm always up for suggestions. So if anyone who's listening wants to suggest a topic for me to do next, I'm really happy to add in a new and different topic or a new and different approach, or even have a guest speaker if you'd want to come on. If someone would want to come on and have a guest speaker topic, I'd be happy to do that as well.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Meghan. For everyone out there, I would quickly like to share her YouTube channel on the screen. So this is her YouTube channel, and this is what Meghan was telling about. Instead of E, there is a 3. It's a reverse. So this is her channel. I'm going to share all the details, like the link to the channel, LinkedIn page, and the Twitter, so that you can follow. And of course, you can connect with Meghan as well on LinkedIn. If you would like to share resources, bring some ideas to her about this channel and how she can share more tips and tricks with all of you. So definitely I'm going to share all of this today. And with that, thank you so much, Meghan, today. I think it's one of the most amazing talks that I had in the past few months. We have talked so many things, and this includes not only your cybersecurity journey, but your whole personal experiences, which are very close and dear to you. Thank you so much for sharing us. Like, this means a lot that you have shared beautiful stories so that everyone out there can connect and feel impacted by your journey in a big way. So thank you so much. And thank you for joining us today.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me on, Asa. It was lovely, and have a great rest of your day.